Hey, and we're back with another episode of obscure Amiga games you've never heard of. It's been a week and I've dug up some more little known games. Although I'm sure someone will point out that they knew of all of them already. But maybe they just had access to many more games than I did. Life is funny like that. Anyway, enough of the yapping and let's get on with it. Backstage is a unique title that's obscure for two reasons. First of all, it's a point-and-click adventure game that only came out in German, and secondly, it's a promotional title that released to promote Guns N' Roses rock band. Now, I don't speak German and only know a few words and sentences, so everything I'll tell you here will be based on what I found about it online. It's 1993 and Axel Pols, frontman of a very popular rock band, is celebrating his success and release of a new album by organizing a radio lottery. Whomever answers 5 questions about the album gets to win a meeting with Axel himself. You, as the biggest fan of both Axel and the band, decide to win. I also decided to win the lottery last week, but so far to no avail. So, as in most point-and-click adventures, you'll be talking to many different characters and solving simple puzzles. All the while throughout the game you'll be a subject to aggressive advertising promoting so-called Life Club, a real-life buyers club for purchasing products at discounted prices. Bonzai is a vertically scrolling shoot-em-up similar to Commando and Ikari Warriors, meaning that you're a lone survivor slash soldier slash Rambo type dude that goes upwards killing any and all enemies. You start armed with just a knife and a whole set of your undisputable survival skills. It's not long before you get yourself a rifle and some grenades though. Other than just fighting the enemies, you'll be avoiding incoming airstrikes, you'll wade through minefields and deep waters too. Pressing the fire button shoots, and holding it down along with joystick pushed upwards throws a grenade. Oh, and believe it or not, there's a story to this game. You play as a Japanese kamikaze pilot who survived. Talking about someone failing at their job miserably, right? Anyway, you're captured and sent off to prison camp. There you meet another prisoner, heavily wounded Tomomi Aoki, who has important information that needs to be delivered to Japanese Army Command. You decide to break out of the camp and deliver the vital war intelligence yourself. And you have only 3 days to do that. I wonder, if you had skills to break out in the first place, why only do it when you learned of the crucial strategic data and not straight away? Battlemaster is a fantasy action-adventure combat game in an isometric top-down view. An unusual combination for the time, but interesting one nonetheless. At start of the game you pick which race you'll lead between human, orc, dwarf and elf, each of them with their own strengths and weaknesses, and a class of either warrior, merchant, archer or mage. As the game carries on, you obviously get to upgrade both your leader and your companions. When you enter a new area, you have to defeat 75% of hostile forces there to be able to progress to the next. Combat can either be ranged with arrows and magic, or melee with swords and clubs among other weapons. You can always have up to 4 companions with you, who can be assigned as simple formations and given basic commands like rally, parley or travel. Some of the classes you choose rely on support of companions more than others. Battlemaster may look simple graphics-wise, but it's an interesting title at its concept and worth checking out for that if no other reason. Blobz is part lemmings, part worms and part something entirely different, and I can't put my finger what that is. At least not yet. It's a puzzle game where you have to lead a group of blobs to safety while avoiding any and all dangers by using a set of different commands that can be issued to them. All within the time limit obviously. Blobs behave identically to lemmings, so they will just happily go forwards if not directed otherwise, even if it will mean them going straight towards the eternal sleep, to put it nicely. At the bottom of the screen, same as in lemmings, there's a set of buttons, each corresponding to a particular skill that you can assign to each and every little blob. And they're quite varied too, from jump through dig to a shot that destroys obstacles in our creature's way. Kinda like bazooka shot in Worms. Additionally, not all levels are straightforward start to exit, and some have objectives, like the requirement to collect a number of items on your way or destroying specific installations. More so, not all skills are available initially and some must be picked up throughout the level to use later on. I think that saying Blobz is same but different to lemmings is best way to describe the game, even if it often feels much faster than lemmings do. Chamonix is interesting as it's a puzzle game in action platformer's clothing. On the first glance it looks like your typical early 90s Amiga platformer, but there's more to it than it meets the eye. You're Jeff, the zookeeper, and you have to find and catch all the animals that escape the zoo within given time limit on each level. But most animals can't be captured just willy-nilly and will require a use of a specific object scattered around the levels. And there are always few in each, and not all of them are particularly useful. Those that are though are often used to distract different kinds of animals before they can be caught. So, for instance, monkeys in the first level cannot be knocked out with a baseball bat just like that, but have to be lured with a bowl of food first, and then captured when eating from said bowl. New objects and animals are introduced with each level, and learning correct combinations is a key to success, as the only enemy in Catchem that you face is time. Kinda like in real life for most of us. We can change a lot in our lives and modify our behavior to be better, but we can't stop the time, and all we can do is make the best use out of it. Wow, that subject changed quickly, right? Anyway, Catchem, while not groundbreaking, is a pretty decent game and one worth checking out. Upon its release, Chamonix Challenge, aka Final Assault, was the most graphically rich, great-sounding and playable mountain climbing simulator ever. Truth be told, it may very well be to this day, as I can't recall any other game really tackling the subject. So, this 1987's title may be cream of the crop in the genre by a mere fact of having no competition at all. I may be wrong though, and something may have released in the last 30-odd years, but even if it did, it's as obscure as Chamonix Challenge is. Anyway, coming back to the game, before venturing off you have to pick a route, which also works as a difficulty level choice, and then gear that you'll take with you, and it's crucial cause on an adventure like that, every kilogram counts, every pound makes a difference, and every gram may be a decisive factor in your success. So you'll be walking the gentle slope first, occasionally testing the ground and jumping over cracks, then you'll start your vertical climb, first easier on rock, then later on more challenging vertical slope. Chamonix Challenge is perhaps not the most difficult or exciting game out there, but it's definitely one tackling the subject most don't. So, if you enjoy unique games, it's definitely something worth a look. Putt Classics sounds pretty bad, looks terrible, and if I was to end it here, you'd never look at the game again. But fortunately, up to 4 players can have a time of their life playing this little gem competitively. Because that's where the ingenuity of Putt lies, in incredibly fun and addicting multiplayer. It's not as good when played alone. In essence, it's nothing more than a mini-golf game. But the creative design of all courses and very precise controls make it much more enjoyable than many high-budget titles of late 80s and early 90s. To the point that the lack of overly detailed graphics and orchestral soundtrack becomes an advantage, as they don't distract you from lining up those perfect shots and careful gauge of power that should be applied to them. Putt Classics reminds me a lot of Minigolf on C64. They both released in the same year, but I played the C64 game first. Putt, however, is a better game, and not only because it released on a more powerful machine, it's just superior. But if you have no access to it, Commodore's Little Systems game is quite fun too. Not sure why I mentioned C64 in a video about Amiga games, but here you go, it happened. I shall bear any and all consequences in the comments below. Galactic Warrior Rats is a multi-dimensional pest control company simulator where you... No, wrong game. Close, but not the one. In Galactic Warrior Rats, you're in control of one of 3 titular monstrosities named Einstein, Darwin and Newton. And the game itself is a multi-directional top-down shooter where you control said rats and have to save badly polluted planet of Smithon 5 by destroying its robotic defenses and the computer primed to explode it. Now, wasn't my initial description of the game one that made much more sense, even if it wasn't real? Also, who names their planet something 5? I mean, it's like we would have named all planets in our solar system Earth, with appropriate number. Which would make our planet Earth 3, come to think of it. Never mind, ignore me please, let's get on with it. Most defeated enemies drop credits that can be used to upgrade the biosphere your rat is surrounded with, or their weapons. 3 rats represent your 3 lives, and when they're all done for, it's game over. One thing worth mentioning that may not be visible on the footage is that the spheres have a certain degree of inertia, so they don't stop in a spot. Keep that in mind. German developer Talion Software is, or more likely was, well known for their beautiful games. The presentation in their titles was unparalleled and often could easily compete with similar games on the consoles. Ghost Battle is no different. It's an arcade side-scrolling platformer with incredible presentation. It features 5 different worlds, and while they are not very large, they make up for it with difficulty. Which is a little over the top if you ask me. I mean, you can choose easy, normal and hard, but in reality they're respectively hard, harder and hardest. And while the enemies that you encounter other than the bosses are fairly straightforward to dispose of, some of the environmental puzzles may be a touch challenging for a supposedly classical platformer, especially the timed ones. All that you're armed with on your adventure are the rocks, which, while being environmentally friendly and with neutral carbon footprint, is hardly deadly. And all the special weapons and items that you find along the way are either used for specific tasks or to defeat bosses who end each level. Ghost Battle features some obvious similarities to Shadow of the Beast games, but at least in my opinion it's better than the first 2 Beast titles. Lords of Doom is a role-playing and adventure game mixture where you're playing in first-person view and controlling a party of 4 characters. You will spend majority of the game exploring various locations of Vertic, a small desert town that's been suddenly infested by werewolves, vampires, mummies and zombies. The monsters decimated the population and seemingly they're the only ones that are left. Well, them and your group, which is composed of 2 monster hunters and 2 ordinary citizens. Your main task is to defeat all monsters and overlords of each of the horror species, freeing the town from the grasp of the undead. All the characters have their own statistics and even meters for thirst and hunger, so they have to be fed to stay alive. Combat is realized in real time, similarly to other first-person RPGs of the era, and that pretty much covers the role-playing side of the game. Adventuring 1 features interaction with various objects and numerous puzzles to solve. All in all, Lords of Doom is pretty unique and fun. If you enjoy RPGs that are a little more than standard underground dungeon crawlers and feature more realistic locations, this one's definitely worth a look. Or 2. One at the game, one behind your back, cause you never know, a vampire may be just there. I think I've managed to cover an interesting spectrum of different games this week. Most I have not known about back in the day, and I hope that you didn't too, and learned about at least a game or 2 that could be something that you'd like to try. If I succeeded, then great. If I haven't, then I gotta try harder next time. And there will be next time, you can count on that. If you think Amiga was the best gaming computer of the late 80s and early 90s, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. If you believe that it was gone too early and with the right management could carry on for a while more, maybe even to this day, share the video and let's discuss it in the comments below. Patreon subscriptions and YouTube memberships are always appreciated as they help me release better content, but they're not necessary if you can't or don't want to get into these. Likes and subscribes are great too. Most of all, however, I would like to take a second here and thank all of the YouTube Let's Play and Playthrough creators, from whose videos short bits were taken for this one as a video background to my commentary. They're amazing, and thanks to their effort, retro community can prevail for years longer and in better form than it could have otherwise. So thank you. For me though, this is all, so have a good one and I'll see you next time. Peace.